Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chloe. It's great to be on a call with KHIPU again. You guys are one of my favourite partners, and it's so nice to be on an event again. You're absolutely right. Um, it's been a journey. We announced that acquisition, gosh, 2 years ago. Actually, the deal actually closed on the 2nd of July last year, but as of the beginning of January this year, that was what we called employee day one. In other words, all of the staff are transferred across as to being HPE employees. And I actually got a much bigger team. So about middle of last year, I also picked up responsibility for all the pre-sales engineers. And with the Juniper team coming on board, we've now got a really large team of pre-sales engineers out there to help our customers and our partners articulate what we're doing as a company. Because I think that's really important, is that when two big organizations come together like this, probably the biggest hardware acquisition in networking history, I can't think of a bigger one. When that comes together, inevitably there's a lot of questions about what does this mean to me as a customer? What are you going to do with these particular products? What is this going to do to change the market? So, for the past kind of 6 months between July and the beginning of January, we were working very hard in the background to work on our vision. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. So hopefully you can see my screen. So we are HPE Networking. So the former HPE Aruba Networking and HPE Juniper Networking businesses that we had for the final part of last year. We're now HPE Networking. So if we start turning up talking about HPE Networking, that's got all the great technology and all the good people that have come from both sides of the house. And we made some real strong commitments. And if I've been talking to you before, you'll have heard me say that one of the first commitments that the executive made was that no customer would be left behind. In other words, as a result of the acquisition, we weren't going to kill any products. We weren't going to end of sale or end of life anything because we'd putting these two businesses together. In fact, on the contrary, we were going to use the fact that we had these two businesses with this much broader portfolio to accelerate our R&D development, and also to try and change the networking industry forever for the better. So the first thing we said was no customer left behind. The second thing we also said was that we were going to deliver every single R&D commitment that was already in the hopper. In other words, if we plan to deliver new access points or switches on the Aruba side, then we would do that. If we plan to deliver some new software capabilities or new firewalls or routers on the Juniper side, we would absolutely do that. And that's exactly what we've been doing in the intermediate time frame. What we also said was that we were going to use that first 6 months to figure out how we could accelerate our R&D and start to bring those portfolios together, so that customers had a better choice and a broader portfolio to choose from. And another commitment we made was that probably where the biggest questions came from really was that in HPE Aruba we had our Aruba Central, and Juniper had the Mist platform, and I know a lot of our competitors will say, well, they bought Mist, they're going to get rid of Central. That is absolutely categorically not the case. In fact, on the contrary, our leadership came out and made a commitment that both platforms will be around for at least 10 years. So I think that's a fantastic thing to say, and a great way to protect the investment and the trust that our customers have put in us, that not only do we protect their existing investments, but we use that breadth of our portfolio and the breadth of our R&D team to accelerate those programs to change our networking industry forever. Now, as we move through that R&D program, both companies really had a very similar focus, and that was that, and this is a great slide to show it, is that up is not the same as being good. In other words, if you're implementing a network, if you're managing a network, if you're supporting your users or a data center, and increasingly, as we are today, over a streaming media, we need to make sure that not only is the network up, but also that the service we're delivering is good. Now, some applications, you can have the odd glitch, you can have some data dropouts, and nobody really notices. I'm thinking specifically around, if an email arrives 10 minutes late, would anyone notice? I suppose if you're sitting there waiting for it, it probably does, but most of the time we don't. If a web page takes an extra half second to load, do we notice? And if we do we even think about whether or not that's the local network or something else that's taking place? The answer is we probably don't. But if you're on a medium just like this one and you see even a small blip in the video, and to be honest, even more sensitive is do you see or hear an interruption in the audio, then that's a problem. So our focus was, how do we make, not only do we give you to make sure the network is performing effectively in terms of connectivity and bandwidth and throughput, but also that the applications and, more importantly, the user experience was absolutely to the fore. Now, both organizations, both Aruba and Juniper, have been focused on that for quite a while. And the view was that if we can capture enough telemetry, we can use the power of AI to analyze that. And as a result of that analysis, we can then point the IT team in the right direction. And more importantly, we can actually fix it automatically without them having to do anything. And that's really been our focus over the past few years. Now, this is a really good way to describe what we're doing. This is this path we have to what we call self-driving networks. And actually, I think it's a really good analogy, because if you think about what's happening with self-driving cars, you think about how over time, all of the services and the functions have evolved to remove the need for the driver to be involved in things. I mean, that could be just checking the oil because there's a light comes on the dashboard. It could be adjusting the timing. You know, some of those very old Crocs that do on the London-Brighton run, you have to adjust the mixture and the timing from the steering wheel. That just happens automatically. And increasingly, of course, with things like parking sensors and sat-nav, we just put it in reverse and we reverse till the beeps get constant. Or we tell the sat-nav that we want to go, you know, to HPE in Winnersh, and it takes us there. And it doesn't just take us there, it gathers information along the way in terms of traffic. So actually there's a traffic holdup, we'll take a different route. So in other words, it's advising us and making recommendations as to what we need to do based on the telemetry it's gathering, i.e. what the traffic is taking place. Now that, of course, inevitably leads towards a full self-driving vehicle, a bit like what Teslas are doing these days, which is that, you know, yes, you're sure you have to be there, but more and more, the safety aspect of it, the getting you where you need to be, the intent of what you're trying to achieve happens automatically. In fact, even now with a completely self-driving vehicle, such as these taxis that don't even have a driver, phenomenal. In fact, I was in San Francisco middle of last year, and they have a taxi firm called Waymo, which is completely driverless, a bit like the science fiction films and Johnny Cabs. There's no driver at all. And just to show you how people get trusting of these technologies, if you wanted to go on a Waymo, there was a 20-minute wait. If you wanted to get an Uber or a regular taxi, you'd get one in under 5. So the trust is being built over time in terms of that world, and we're doing exactly the same thing on the networking space. We're gathering telemetry, we're making recommendations, we're guiding the IT teams to what they need to do to fix things, and increasingly, use case after use case, function after function, we're automating those things to the point where actually after a while, you'll be able to see something happen once, agree that you're happy with the network to make that recommendation and fix automatically this next if it happens again, and then you're taking yourselves out of the loop. So that's really what we are in terms of driving towards those self-driving networks. Really, really powerful and important journey that we're taking across all of our portfolio. Now, our portfolio is divided into 4 technology stacks. Now, for today, we're going to focus on campus and branch, because I know that's the one where typically there are the most questions, and also where, you know, historically with KHIPU, we've done the most business. So I know there's a lot of customers on here that have got our campus and branch technology either from the Aruba side of the house or from Juniper, and want to understand where we're taking that and what we're doing. So what we're doing with campus and branch essentially is cross-pollinating functionality between the 2 platforms. In other words, we're taking the best of Central and putting it into Mist, and we're taking the best of Mist and putting it into Central. What we're also doing is looking at how we can build a single AP to deliver capabilities for both platforms. So we want to make sure we don't leave no customer behind, no end of sale or premature end of life of any platform as a result of the acquisition. But as we do our natural refresh, the next generation of switches and access points and other parts of the technology, how can we leverage the smarts that we have in both R&D teams to bring that forward? And that is very much at the heart of our self-driving network, is to understand any particular issue that, you know, might be impacting a user's experience or a device's experience on the network, or perhaps a security concern, and using the power of AI and the power of our self-driving network to help fix that. So campus and branches, where all of our Wi-Fi and switching and network access technology sits, and that is going to be the focus of today. But in addition to the campus and branch portfolio becoming much stronger as a result of this acquisition, we also get some fantastic assets in other parts of our portfolio. I mean, I'll touch on, say, security, for instance. Now, within our security technology stack, not only do we have our SD-WAN capabilities, so you think about our Edge Connect and our SD branch functionality, and also our secure service edge, the ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access technology that we got through the acquisition of Axis a couple of years ago. We're now adding all of those Juniper assets, including a firewall. I mean, I'm absolutely stoked that we now have a dedicated standalone next generation firewall right in our portfolio. Because although we've always worked well with third parties, we've been very open in our approach to working with technology partners, it's nice to have it in your own portfolio to allow you to start developing some secret sauce that allows you to do things that you couldn't do through integration with third parties. So we'll still continue that work when working with Palo Alto and Checkpoint and Fortinet and all the others, but now with our own firewall technology, really, really strong. And of course, that also means that we bolster our SD branch and SD-WAN capabilities as well in that security portfolio. We also have routing infrastructure solutions now, which is really interesting. So, I mean, this is essentially where Juniper was born in terms of delivering routing technology, the big MX routers at the heart of the internet. Now, I appreciate that most people on this on the call won't be thinking of building their own parallel internet, but there are some really interesting use cases that we get as a result of the RIS portfolio. So for those customers that want to build their own private WAN, fantastic capabilities to do that. And we've certainly got some big universities that do that today. For those customers that want to do a high-speed data center interconnect across their own private fiber, again, great technology to allow us to do that with very granular controls on security and packet performance. So the routing infrastructure solution, again, great thing to have in our kit bag, and we're certainly happy to talk about that with any of our customers moving forward.
Sorry, Simon, I'm just going to stop you. A question that's just come through. Do you mind?
Oh, sorry, yes, I can't see. Carry on. Yeah, ask me a question.
Will central NAC be simplified for easier management, like access assurance, or is this the direction to keep having lots of different clicks to do anything?
The answer is we're always working to simplify the workflows of our platform. So central NAC is relatively new, and the functionality is improving and increasing over day, as is us listening to our customers about how we can improve the capabilities. So the answer is absolutely yes. Our goal is not only to add additional functionality, but also to simplify the workflows as well. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. The area probably where we'll see the most incremental quick, I would say, wins is in terms of data center networking. Now, the acquisition of Juniper makes networking a much more important and core element of what HPE is overall. And certainly the assets that we get from the acquisition of Juniper in the data center are really very powerful. So very big high-end switching platforms. The Apstra software stack, which is an intent-driven configuration and management tool for data centers, gives us very powerful capabilities. So you're going to start to see our HPE colleagues talking a lot more about networking, because it's a way that we can help customers extract more value out of their data centers and more value out of their AI estates and those GPUs that they're using to build those. So data center network is really very, very powerful. But like I said, the main one most people are interested in is around the campus and branch space, and that's really where we've seen the most accelerated R&D development. Now, the big question that always comes up is which one of these platforms are you going to keep? Juniper's very strong in the cloud space, as is Aruba Central. But of course, why would you buy Juniper if Mist wasn't the one thing you want? To be honest, is we want both. We saw some fantastic capabilities in Mist, and equally, Central has been on a tremendous journey. I mean, it's been as those of you who have seen the new UI, we've rewritten Central from the ground up over the past few years. So new Central, the new UI you're seeing is now GA and live. That's the next step on that journey. But moving forward, we want to absolutely keep both platforms, because prior to the acquisition, we had two R&D teams. One developing Juniper Mist, one developing Central. And although they're both developing a microservices architecture, and both were focusing on agentic AI as well, both of their literally leading towards that self-driving network model. The two teams think slightly differently. The Mist team, when focused on some things, and the Central team focused on some others. And actually, that's really healthy, is to have people that think differently, because it means you get, to cross-reference what you're doing. And it also means that you get a broader spectrum of ideas and capabilities to pick from than you would have if you just had one team thinking in one direction. So we're maintaining that. 2 R&D teams, continuing with all the work they were going to do. Remember, all those commitments that we said will be delivered. But at the same time, looking at how we cross-pollinate between the two. And that's really powerful because it means we can develop some functionality once, develop a use case once, and then share that across the 2 platforms. And I'm going to hand over to Phil in a minute. And Phil's going to show you some of those things actually live today. Some of the things that you're going to see cross-pollinated between the 2, show you them live today. So things that we wish we had in Central already. He's going to show you how we do that in MIST and what's going to happen when it moves to Central. So some really cool stuff in that respect. But of course, long term, inevitably, what you want to do is bring the portfolios closer together. And indeed, that will happen over the next few years, to the point where at some point in the future, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. But any customer with existing install base will be supported. There is, however, one area where we are going to maintain the differentiation between the 2.
Sorry to cut you off again, Simon. You do have another question that's come in. Brace yourself. Surely it doesn't make sense to keep developing 2 platforms that are doing the same thing. It's not that different what they are doing, or is it political?
It's not political at all. I mean, I think I just kind of said it quite well, actually, is that 2 R&D teams think differently. They have different focus areas. And when you see Phil's demonstration in a minute, you'll understand why, right? Because the Juniper team focused on some quite different things to the Central team had focused on, both equally important. But of course, when you're developing a platform, you would love to have everything in the kit bag already. The question is, what do you prioritize? Central prioritize some things, the MIST team prioritize others, and the benefit we have is that we now have both in our kit bag. The reason for keeping both platforms is, one, is we want to maintain that I say diversity of thinking, but more importantly, at the very beginning I said no customer left behind. We want to protect those customers' investments, and over time, gradually through cross-pollination, make sure that any in the future single platform that we move to supports both user bases equally. That's really very important. We absolutely do not want to leave any customer behind and put any customer's investment at risk, because that wouldn't be the right thing to do. So that's why we're doing it. It's not political at all. It's just that we see actually there's more benefit in having 2 and maintaining 2, and the difference of thinking than the potential savings that you could see from moving to 1. It's much better to have kind of 2 dogs in the fight than it is to have 1, and that's exactly what we want to maintain moving forward. So I mentioned about cross-pollination. Phil's going to show you some of the things that we're going to cross-pollinate between the two platforms. So I'll cut this bit short. What I did want to make sure that everyone understands is that the 2 platforms will have a very slightly different focus. So MIST has always been 100% focused on being in the public cloud. And for the majority of customers, this is absolutely the right call. So while Central will also be available in the public cloud and will get new functionality moving forward, in fact, arguably over time, the differences will, like I said, will become very minimal. One of the things Central is going to do that MIST is not going to do is offer an on-prem version. So if for data sovereignty reasons, and I think sovereignty is quite high on people's thoughts at the moment for a variety of reasons, there are some customers that want to maintain data sovereignty and also want to maintain different implementation types. So if the public cloud is not right for you as a customer, then you have options, either VPC or indeed having it as an on-prem solution. So Central is going to deliver all the same functionality as the cloud version, but give you the option of having either an on-prem or a VPC implementation. And that's another reason why we're going to maintain the 2 platforms, is so that we can give the customers choice. 10 years ago, Antonio Neri said that the world would forever be hybrid. And that was before, recent geopolitical events, before COVID, before a whole bunch of things. I think his prediction is absolutely coming true, because some customers that we talked to that did move all their workloads into the cloud, public cloud, are now bringing some back for various reasons: cost, sovereignty, reliability, you name it. In fact, the recent kind of blip that AWS has had some customers thinking that maybe not having everything in that one public cloud is the right call for them. So in addition to cross-pollinating the software, the other thing we're doing is delivering common hardware as we refresh the platforms naturally. So all existing things are being delivered, but those that we could actually catch in flight, we've been able to slightly revector. So, for instance, the latest 2 access points to come out of the Aruba side of the house. So there's a hospitality AP, the 725, and there's also a hardened AP. Those will be what we call dual stack. So in other words, the same physical access point will connect to both central and to Mist. So looking forward, you're going to see more and more of that take place, is that one hardware platform will support the dual software platforms moving forward. I think it's fantastic. So it's a great thing to see actually happening in reality, and how quickly. Now, what I'll leave you with is some of the key benefits that our customers are seeing through the use of the self-driving technology that both companies were focused on prior to the acquisition, and indeed that's going to get even better as we move forward. You know, a massive reduction in trouble tickets. You know, if you've heard one of my presentations before, you'll know that I always say it's about time. You know, time to deploy, time to fix, time to secure. Because not only does that reduce the load on the IT team, but it also delivers a better experience for the user base and a more cost-effective environment for the organization itself. And it allows you to focus on things like sustainability and security and other things that you might want to do to help move the business forward. 80%, 5% faster upgrades. Why? Because we're making recommendations to the AI as to what the relevant version of code you need to run to deliver the outcome is going to be. And of course, you know, being able to look at everything in the cloud means you're sending fewer people to site. And overall, an organization is spending 80% less time managing their network. And that's really important, because that time can then be utilized for other things that are more valuable to the business. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time. We are in a new era, delivering a new generation of networks, not just delivering using the power of AI to make the networks not only easier to deploy, easier to fix, and more secure, but on the reverse of that, we're also delivering networks to deliver the next generation of AI moving forward. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to hand over to Phil.